Hi guys, this is Michelle with Deception Bytes, and I am bringing you the latest Q post, picking up from where we left off last time. There was another post last night, late last night, 11:30 my time, that's Eastern Standard Time, and then there was some more today. So want to get you up to date on that, especially since today is the State of the Union address, and I think that that's going to be historic, and I think there's going to be I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I kind of think it's going to be huge, but then I don't want to be disappointed either, so I don't want to get myself all, psyched up and then let down. But I do think that there's some things coming, obviously, and if not today at the State of the Union, then certainly within the next few days. So lots of stuff on the go. Now, I want to get just a couple of housekeeping items out of the way. One, I do have two listeners that are both dealing with broken backs that are at home, that are listening to my videos at home while they're recuperating, or one is waiting for surgery. And I just ask that if you are a believer that you would offer a prayer for them. I'm not going to give their names, but certainly God knows. And I think that they would appreciate that. I know God would appreciate that. And I know that it makes all the difference. And the reason I know that is because I myself have had a very serious spinal injury. So I know that prayer makes a difference. Anyway, also, I wanted to thank you guys that have sent me coffee money over the last little while, over the last few months. And I just really appreciated it. It really means a lot, and it touches me because, money is not easy to come by these days. So, taking time out to send me, a few dollars for coffee is just awesome to me. It means a lot. So anyway, and not that I expect that. So please don't think that I'm hinting in any way. I don't expect that, but it is nice. So the other thing is I had the funniest comment on my video, and you may not find it as funny as I do, but I have a very bizarre sense of humor. And somebody wrote a comment about the video on Maxine Waters, and they said that we should throw a little leather chair on it. And those of you that are regular listeners will get that, and those of you that aren't, it's okay. But it did make me laugh hysterically, and I do mean that. I laughed and laughed. So let's get into this, because you didn't come to listen to all that. So let's get into these. It's not going to take us very long because there's not a lot here. But what is here is important. So January 29th, that would be last night around 11:30 at night, Q says narrative shift. Now, after reading through this, I'm understanding that what he is saying is that the Democrats are going to need this narrative shift because of what's coming. And this, he's telling us in advance that this is what they're going to say. And he says nation on alert. Now, I'm not sure if that's part of the narrative shift or not. I would assume so because it's under the line. Nation on alert. Firing Rod Rosenstein equals block Mueller. Firing Rod Rosenstein equals setup to firing Mueller. Firing Rod Rosenstein equals red line. Now, this he's saying, and I believe this very, I'm pretty adamant about believing this, that this is what he's saying. And he's saying, okay, Rosenstein has been the one charged with overseeing the Mueller investigation since Attorney General Jeff Sessions recused himself. So the mainstream media will claim that Rod Rosenstein was fired to block Mueller because his firing is coming up. And if you haven't been watching and keeping up with the news, that's in the news actually today, that we're just on the precipice of that. So I do believe that there's every indication that Trump is going to fire Rod Rosenstein. So what mainstream media is going to come back with is they're going to claim that Rod Rosenstein was fired in order to block the Mueller investigation, okay? And they'll also say that it was the prelude to firing Mueller, and say it was the last straw, okay? So they're going to say, well, number one, Rod Rosenstein was fired to block the Mueller investigation, to impede it. Then they're going to say that because the person that he wants to replace Rod Rosenstein with is not anti-Trump. Now, that makes sense to me, because why would you have all anti-Trump people investigating something in which they're supposed to be impartial? Doesn't make sense. So he plans to, or according to the media, and it's very difficult to know what to believe anymore, but according to the media, he plans to replace Rod Rosenstein with, and I forget her name, it's a woman, but she is unbiased apparently. So, but you know how the media is going to spin that. They're going to say, well, he just did that to impede the investigation because he's guilty. And then they're going to say that, well, he's firing Rod Rosenstein, as a prelude to firing Mueller himself. But then they're going to say that it equals the red line. And I think we all know what red line means, but I'm just going to just reiterate it. The red line, or to cross the red line, is a phrase used worldwide to mean a figurative point of no return or line in the sand, or a limit past which safety can no longer be guaranteed. I know I've been to Niagara Falls several times, and on both sides, the Canadian side and the American side. And the Canadian side really is better. I'm not saying that because I was originally born Canadian. I'm saying that because it really is. And anyway, right above the falls, there's a point, like back a ways from where the falls starts. There's a place, and there's a wire across, and it says point of no return. And I remember as a child, my mother is a teacher, and we traveled a lot. And so my mother would always take that opportunity when we were traveling to educate me and on everything, the local history, everything. And I remember that so plainly, seeing that. And I said, what is the point of no return? And I remember my mom saying, well, once you've passed that wire, there's no hope. There's no hope. You can't turn a boat around at that point. You're going to go over the falls. So I remember that in my mind so plainly, because I always think of that as a point of no return. It's such an alarming visual of being in a boat and passing that line, and you're like, oh no, that's it. There's absolutely not a chance to turn this around. I'm going over the falls. So that's what the red line means. And I think that the Democrats are going to say, okay, this is the point of no return for us. He has gone too far. So, yeah. And once that happens, what's going to happen? Sorry, I'm trying to go back and find my place here. What's going to happen then? They're going to need a shift in the narrative. They're going to need something to change the news. So it's interesting, isn't it? It's, I don't know, but this is clearly to me what, I don't know what I'm doing here, what he's saying. He's saying narrative shift. Okay, now that this memo is coming out, and it is coming out, it absolutely is coming out. Like, it's been voted on, it's coming out. Like, there's no turning around now. It's coming out. So, nation on alert. Well, why is it on alert? I don't know. Is it on alert because this is coming out? I don't know. But I really believe that these three things are the things that the Democrats are going to say, because it makes sense to me. Because the next thing that's going to happen is Trump is going to fire Robert Mueller, and or not Robert Mueller, Rod Rosenstein, and I would assume that Mueller will be going too once that comes out. Maybe they're both going to go at the same time. It was interesting to see how the mainstream media spun McCabe leaving. And it was interesting to see that he was being escorted by police out of the building. So this wasn't a friendly leaving. Anyway, let's continue. Now, this is set apart by lines here, blocking it. This is the narrative that the mainstream media, the Democrats, are going to be putting forth. Now, underneath, we have more of Q. He says, what was the Senate confirmation vote regarding Rod Rosenstein? Well, the Senate voted 94-6 to confirm Rod Rosenstein as Deputy Attorney General. So he was a shoo-in. I mean, a literal shoo-in. And yeah, there was no opposition to him getting in, really. Well, 6 people. Why did Rod Rosenstein beg Ryan to block the FISA memo from congressional review or further advancement of it? Why did he want it blocked from it being reviewed by Congress or further advancement of it? Well, most likely because it implicated him in some sort of wrongdoing, I would assume. Him and his friends. Why else would you want it blocked? Because if you're a good person, and even though members of your party have done something wrong, you would want that brought forth, even though they're members of your party. You wouldn't want it covered up, right? And I'm not saying that it's only the Democrats. I had someone comment on that I think that the Republicans are lily white. Oh no, I don't. Absolutely not. It's all through both the Democrats and the Republicans. Absolutely it is. But if you are Rod Rosenstein and you're blocking this coming, or you're trying to block it from coming to light, if you're a good person, you would want it to come to light regardless of how it reflects on your fellow party members, right? Because you would want justice. However, it makes the most sense that he himself is implicated in some way. So he's trying to save his own bacon. That's what I believe. Now, Q then says real time. 7 congressional members plus 3 senators plus 2 former Obama senior officials plus 4 outside contractors no C top sensitive level clearance at SCIF, which stands for Sensitive Compartmentalized Information Facility in DC Capitol. Now, what this means, he's telling us that, and this goes back to some posts that he dropped, gosh, way back in the beginning, because I remember we were all kind of wondering what SCIF meant. He basically said that, if I can remember, he said that Obama had classified this so that there were people that would not be able to ever gain access to it because they didn't have the security clearance, the right security clearance, and that he even classified parts that didn't need to be classified. So that means, because he did that, that means that 7 congressional members, 7 members of Congress, 3 senators, 2 former Obama senior officials, and 4 outside contractors didn't have the level of clearance needed to be able to view that document. That's what that means. He said top security clearance is mandatory for admission. How is that possible? And a sensitive compartmentalized information facility in the United States military, national security, national defense, and intelligence parlance is an enclosed area within a building that is used to process sensitive compartmentalized information, SCI, types of classified information. So they're kept in special storage facility, an enclosed area, and only those with sensitive clearance level or top level clearance can get in to view those documents. And even then, it's my understanding that there are people watching over them the whole time that they're in there. They can't take phones and things like that in there. They are watched continually while they're in there. So that is what Q is telling us here. And said top security clearance is mandatory for admission. How is that possible? Well, the FISA memo was held in the Congressional Sensitive Compartmentalized Information Facility, meaning only those with certain clearance could view it. It contained previously undisclosed information involving the Federal Bureau of Intelligence, the FBI, and the Department of Justice. So how is that possible? I don't know. I don't know. I guess it's possible because it was, that's how it was classified. It was deemed that this is classified information. But I remember Q saying way back that it didn't need to be classified. So it was classified in order to keep it from prying eyes, I would assume, or from being discussed, because you can't discuss it because it's classified. So anyway, then he adds, "We see you." Now, hang on here. Shooby-dooby-doo. Gosh, I hate when I lose my place. And I bet you hate it more. Okay, so military intelligence working with the NSA sees and hears all, even Hillary Clinton's missing emails and the Strzok page missing text messages. See where he says, "We see you." That's exactly what he's saying. We see it all. We have it all. Your goose is cooked. Extra, extra crispy. Now, access to SCIFs is normally limited to those individuals with appropriate security clearances. Non-cleared personnel in SCIFs must be under the constant oversight of cleared personnel, and all classified information and material removed from view in order to prevent unauthorized access. As part of this process, non-cleared personnel are also typically required to surrender all recording, photographic, and other electronic media devices. All of the activity and conversation inside is presumed restricted from public disclosure. So that's why that was done. But it didn't work, because at least that 4-page memo's coming out. Woohoo! Now, let's go on to the next, that's the first drop. This is the second drop. It's just a picture of an American flag. I don't think that there's anything hidden in there. I think it's just a patriotic gesture of the flag of the United States, and that's all I think it is. Now, if any of you have any other ideas, or if I'm missing something obvious, please leave comments below. But yep, that looks like an American flag to me. Okay, January 29th, 2347. Now, James Comey tweeted what is stated below, and Q's interpretations are within the square parentheses. So, James Comey tweeted, "Special Agent Andrew McCabe stood tall over the last 8 months." Well, Q's interpretation of that is, "Do not talk." Then he said, when small people, and then Q says sheep, "we're trying to tear down an institution we all depend on." And then he says, cover. He served with distinction for 2 decades. And Q interprets this to mean, "We own you and your family." James Comey says, "I wish Andy well." And Q interprets this to mean 187. 187 is the code for murder. So he wishes Andy well. No, actually he wishes that he would be murdered. Or he wishes to murder him. I also wish continued strength for the rest of the FBI. Q sees that as a general threat to others. America needs you. Q interprets that to mean activate sleeper cells. And then he signs off Q. So, James Comey is tweeting this. Special Agent Andrew McCabe stood tall over the last 8 months when small people were trying to tear down an institution we all depend on. But Q is meaning that to say he stood tall over the last 8 months because he didn't talk, like do not talk, when small people, the sheep, were trying to tear down an institution we all depend on, which was just a cover, I guess. And he served with distinction for 2 decades, meaning we own you and your family. And he's not wishing him well. He wants him to be murdered to prevent him from talking. And I also wish continued strength for the rest of the FBI. And I really could, I think, to me at first, I think Q has taken this a little bit far. But maybe not, because he's saying, I also wish continued strength for the rest of the FBI. Well, if he's aware of wrongdoing in the FBI, why is he I don't know. Is this a general threat to others? I don't know. Is this a call to activate sleeper cells? I don't know. I don't know. This is what Q is saying. I don't know. I'd be very interested to hear your interpretations, especially our military people, because sometimes they see things that I don't see, because I'm not thinking about this militarily. Yeah. So the very last post was January 30th, and that was just after midnight this morning. And he wrote Apache, period, Q. Now, the very first thing that popped into my mind was Apache helicopter, but I'm not so sure that that's what he means here. And I'll tell you why. And hopefully, maybe I didn't write it down. Oh, I thought I did. Sometimes I worry about myself. I think it's written over here. Yeah, Apache Software Foundation has an open source application called Geronimo and one called Cassandra. Geronimo /Laden and Cassandra were Barack Obama's code names for the whole Hezbollah protecting scandal that came out a week or so ago. Coincidence? I don't know. What do you guys think? I'd be interested to hear your comments, because we're all in this together, and it takes all of us looking at this and thinking about it and trying to decode it. So I appreciate your comments. I appreciate you listening. I really do. I have some incredibly sweet listeners. So I will see you soon. I may do another video tonight. I'm not sure. But that's it for now. And I will talk to you later. I hope you guys have a good night, and I hope that those that will be listening will enjoy the State of the Union address. Thanks. Bye-bye.